As you are no doubt beginning to sweep that pollen off of your front porch and your outside patio furniture, we're going to talk about a different type of spring cleaning for you this morning, financial spring cleaning. Jay and Brittany Hagee are back on the show. They have Alon Planning Partners. Last time y'all were here, you focused on the comprehensive financial planning that you do in all walks of your life. But this spring cleaning, I guess our financial lives can get kind of cluttered. Is that the idea?
Absolutely.
They can. And the reason we wanted to talk about this today is because I read a study just this week that talked about how neuroscientists say that spring cleaning can actually be good for our health. Because especially for us as women, as we walk into a room and there's clutter and disorder and disorganization.
Have you been in my kitchen?
It does impact us.
Yes.
It does cause some stress. It actually increases our cortisol levels.
Okay.
Cortisol is not a good thing to have. It's called the stress hormone.
True.
And so we want to lower cortisol levels, not increase them. And so I'm thinking, well, if that's the case with our physical environment, especially for women, men as well, but there's a neuroscientists say that it's higher for women. How much more could we experience that when it comes to our finances? Because there's already stress around that topic and concept anyway. So bringing some order to the places in our finances where there's just disorder or disorganization or really clutter. I mean, even physically, like think about the statements that you receive, the financial statements, bank statements, or investment account statements, even the payment stubs for things that you have to take care of.
Where all the pieces of your financial life are. We met with a couple last week that had probably 18 different accounts in 10 different organizations, and 10 different custodians. And so it was hard to keep up with. And so it causes cortisol levels or stress or whatever it is. It's like we don't know where everything actually is. And so really piecing that together and even bringing some structure to where they already were was a lot of peace to them. And that's something that we help folks with.
Passwords alone would have me petrified to ever even attempt.
That's right.
So with y'all being comprehensive, let's go with that couple pretend that had the 18 different accounts.
And they did.
It could have been for all different types of things.
It was.
Okay, so what would your approach be to try to consolidate those 18?
Consolidation is a big part of it. And so a common myth is that people believe that just because they have their accounts in multiple locations, that equals diversification. That was this couple's
philosophy,
concept. That's what they believed. And so that's not necessarily the case. What determines diversification is the positioning of those assets, how they're positioned and specifically invested. Not that they're at different custodians or held at different places, or that they're even different accounts, because all those accounts could be functioning in the exact same way and not providing that diversification.
So, I mean, like a really overly simplified example, but if you had 10 different accounts, if they were all bonds.
Exactly.
Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Or if you had, let's just use it even simpler. If you had 10 different checking accounts and you had no savings account or no money market account, like at different banks, like if they're doing the same thing, it really is not providing diversification fully. Like when you are doing asset allocation, and that's part of that spring cleaning too, is to make sure that for my goals that I am actually properly allocated or have the right positioning of stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, whatever it may be, to get me to the goals that I want to get to. And then we help folks with consolidation of those accounts to make sure, okay, we can get you in the right allocation or positioning models, and you can be under one umbrella. You don't have to be in 18 different places, right? So it is a common myth to think, I've got a lot of accounts, so I'm diversified.
I'm sure that a lot of people who come to you are well versed in this. They're maybe just switching from one group to another group or whatever. They're retiring, whatever brings them to you. But they kind of know the vocabulary. There are probably other people who would like to come to you and they don't speak the vocabulary. Is that a wall for some people? Are they afraid to admit what they don't know?
Absolutely. It can be a deterrent because they're thinking, man, it's going to be over my head. But what we love to do is educate. That's why we do workshops. We've written a book. We have put all these materials together. We have a weekly TV show, weekly podcast, just to offer continual information to folks, just to educate. Because it is complicated. We're in it every day, and it is complicated. So we want to make it more palatable. And so when we sit down with folks, with individuals or couples, we're talking in terms that you'll understand. And we're going to give some definitions. We're going to give some structure to even the concepts we're talking about to make it more palatable.
We try to make everything very elementary, because the last thing we want to do is speak over someone's head and them really become more confused than they started. Because in this industry, that's very common. You may may go and speak with someone and like, I left more confused than when I came in.
Right.
And so what we try to do is break down every segment that we talk through with folks' finances and really make them elementary. And so that you walk away with an understanding of, what am I holding? How is this going to help me get to the financial goal that I have? How many accounts am I going to end up with? Should I have a Roth IRA, and what is that? Should I have a traditional IRA, and what is that? There are a lot of different concepts that we're going to walk through, and so we try to keep them as elementary as possible.
So I guess, would you say this is a true statement that the ultimate goal of money is to have it work for you? You want your money to work for you?
And not always have to work for money.
That's right.
Yes, you don't want to always have to spend your life working for money, but make your money work for you.
Okay.
Definitely.
So I can remember when my kids were little, you know, and I had my younger daughter when I was 34. So that 10-year span or so of my life, and my whole heart and soul was them, and wanting to have enjoyed them while I could and not be reckless. But the idea of putting everything aside for the rainy day wasn't where my mind was.
Sure.
Is that common?
It is very common. And what I want to say to that is, speaking to those folks who are in that season, whether it's maybe with your kids or your grandkids, we get it. Like, we are in the thick of it ourselves with our children, 11 and 13, and the activities and, you know, running our business in our home. And so we understand the demand that's on folks' lives, and that this can often fall to the bottom of the priority list.
Right.
Yeah.
But we want to bring that to the top today and say, it doesn't take as much time as you think.
Right.
If you gather the documents that show where your assets are, come in and spend an hour or two with us, and an hour or two of planning can get you through the next 12, 15, 16 months of your financial situation, and just provide some order and some
peace.
structure. And bring those cortisol levels down when we're talking about our finances.
So last year I was helping a gentleman do some spring cleaning with his finance, and we actually found an account he didn't know about. So like, hey, we may even find you some money if you come in, because he had so many accounts spread out, and we were calling custodians. So like, we found an account that he didn't even know he had. So like, it's important that you look at these things on an annual basis.
I think you said a couple of things that people might want to check out before they even call. One is your book. Because if you make that appointment to come in and talk to you, you're going to give it to people.
That's right.
It's also available on the web. But how do they catch you on your podcast and your TV?
Yeah, you can. A great place to start is directly on our website, alonplanning.com. There's a link there for our podcast, for our weekly TV show you can watch on demand, as well as our book, information about our book, and live events, workshops that we hold throughout the Chattanooga area.
It would be a great idea. I mean, obviously, hopefully you're watching us today too, but you can really kind of sit there at the end of the day with your spouse or whatever and hear what they have to say, kind of what their philosophy is, and you'll feel like you're friends before you ever walk through the door.
Absolutely.
Thank
love
you
it.
both.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Julie.
315-1441 is their phone number, and then as Brittany said, alonplanning.com for everything you'll need to make your money grow.